So if you're an individual who just wants to buy a strong, reliable motor and you don't want to do a lot of work to it to get it running right, definitely not the kit for you. But if you're like me and you like to mess around with these and you don't care too much of the fact that they might run like absolute garbage out of the box and you'll have to fix a bunch of stuff, then maybe you can justify it. But remember...
Welcome back, motorized bike enthusiast. In today's video of I Buy It So You Don't Have To, we review what's hands down the worst motorized bike kit I have ever seen. Don't get me wrong, it's not all terrible, just most of it. Link in the description, purchased off Amazon for $220 with free shipping. Let's talk about a few of the pros and cons I knew we were getting into before the kit even arrived. I knew the true CC rating was going to be about 85, about the same as the Phantom 85. I did not expect the performance to be anywhere near the Phantom 85, and that was definitely true. The pros we were looking into was that it had a 52mm piston with a 2-piece cylinder, an iron sleeve, a larger carburetor, which is easier to tune in theory, along with a custom intake adapter that gives you many more options for carburetors. It takes the cylinder's standard 40mm intake up to a 48mm. This means you can still use the generic NT carburetors and more options with the intake adapter. Of course, you're getting upgraded case hardware, 8mm mounting studs with the wider mounting points, and decent looking hardware. But at this price point, that's pretty much expected, so let's move on to the cons. Starting with the price point, it's a gamble. If it does not provide the performance you expect, it's definitely a con. However, if it does provide considerably more performance than something like a YD100, you could look at it as an acceptable pro. Our biggest concern is the proprietary parts, and the fact that it's not being sold on any of the major motorized bike websites, at least as far as I can tell. This means that finding replacement parts is going to be very difficult, if not impossible. Before jumping in the comment section saying that the Phantom 85 is proprietary and there are no replacement parts for it, that's wrong. We have already confirmed that cylinders and pistons are on their way, but they're currently dealing with issues to fix known problems first. This kit, we don't know if anything is going to be available on the aftermarket.
I'm thinking maybe we'll save the trail for a little later into the fall.
We could have a long discussion about why everything you're about to see in the following pictures is bad, but instead I think I'll just let them speak for themselves with a little bit of subtle commentary for comical relief. Another defective trigger lock with no stopper. They're literally casting in the intake that's clogged it. Here's how I fixed that. I just poked it. The head gasket does not match the bore of the cylinder. There's metal flakes smeared on literally everything. Oh, there's a nice metal chunk. More metal smearing mixed with grease. I don't know. What the hell is that? It's a casting flaw? There's like a mark on the other side? I don't even know what's good. More metal flakes on the crank. Yes, there's metal flakes in the transfer ports. There's smeared metal? Did they just press it in without boring it? And there's bottom dead center where the transfers are barely open. And the carburetor leaks, like a lot. This thing just would not stop leaking. What a mess. Dirty and defective. The best way I can describe this kit. Godspeed to the new builder who picks one of these up and tries to run it for the first time. If they have enough sense to unplug the intake manifold and then try to run the bike without first inspecting and cleaning it, it would have certainly destroyed itself within the first couple of tanks. After having addressed the immediate concerns of the motor and trying to run it for the first time, it went something like this. Exactly what every builder loves dealing with after having already dealt with a lot of issues is a clutch. And I have no idea why. I took it apart, examined it. The clutch and all its mechanical parts look fine. The pin's not misaligned or bent. The spring appears to have plenty of tension. The clutch pads don't seem to be like contaminated. I don't know why, but this thing just slips and I can't stop it from slipping. I only made slight adjustments so it would barely start the bike. We'll try and fix that later. Let's move on to something more, something less annoying, I think. The carburetor had the strangest leak I've seen. It wasn't coming out of the overflow. It wasn't coming out of the drain. It was literally seeping through the bowl. I would watch the fuel seep through the walls of the bowl. It's mind-boggling. Like, there's little air gaps, but when I would fill the bowl with water, it wouldn't leak. So this is so weird. Anyways, I just sealed the bowl with JB Weld. Hey, you know what? I don't care. It's either junk or it's working junk. Once we finally got the motor running, it ran terrible. Of course, that was to be expected, but I can't really tune this carburetor as I don't have jets for it. It appears it takes 4mm jets. I have those on the way, but they're not here yet. So anything I do for tuning means I have to solder the jet and drill it to the right size, which is easy to do, but I found this just to be a lot less of a headache by throwing an NT carburetor on it and running it that way, at least temporarily. It ran much better with the NT carburetor, but it still ran absolutely awful. I took off the stock exhaust and put on this old flex fit pipe. Now I know this pipe doesn't do anything for performance, the expansion chamber is a joke, but I wanted to put this on there so that if the stock exhaust had any restrictions, we would know right away, because this pipe is pretty free-flowing compared to the stock exhaust. I also took the air filter off to make sure we didn't have any restrictions there, and this thing still just runs absolutely terrible. It runs a little better with the NT carburetor, and it pretty much doesn't run with the stock carburetor unless you play around with the choke and start soldering, drilling your own jet. So when the new jets arrive, hopefully this will be solved, but for now, that's what we got. We managed to get this thing to limp on just enough power to take a ride, and I'll show you that ride with a few highlights here in a moment. But here's what I have planned for this motor. I'm going to add it as an expansion to the Portwork series, which we have coming in about a week or two. We're going to start work on the Zeda 4040, port it out, get some good performance, and then run some numbers on this thing to hopefully make it worth the price, because at the moment it doesn't even run like a China doll. It's just not worth anything. It's a big paperweight that'll barely move you around. So I know it's kind of a short video today, but hey, that's all we got. This thing's terrible, I hate it, and I'm going to make it work better so we can say we love it. Anyways, until next time guys, ride safe.